Trustees, will you please stand and join the board in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Item 1.03, adoption of the agenda. It is recommended that the agenda for the June 26, 2019 regular meeting of the Board of School Trustees be adopted as presented.
Move for approval. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item 3.01, representatives of the PTA. Is there anyone from the PTA? Item 3.02, representatives of school employees. Anyone to speak to the board on behalf of the employees? Item 3.03, representatives of the Mishawaka Education Foundation. Yes, Mr. Levon.
Good evening. Thank you, President Curry, Dr. Spiker, members of the board, and guests. Thank you for allowing MEF to share this evening. I'm pleased to be here on behalf of the board as a member. Tonight, I would like to give you an update on several large happenings with MEF. We would like everyone here this evening to participate and feel invited to the second annual MHS All-Class Reunion. It's at the FOP on July 13th, 2019 at 7 p.m. Tickets are $20 and are on sale online at mishawakaedu.org. And they also can be purchased here at the Administration Center from Miranda at the front desk. The second annual Chip-In for Education Golf Outing is August 5th at MPCC. Shar Spiker, MEF Chair, is eager for you to get a team or have a sponsorship. Please see all registrations and sponsorships on our new website. Again, that's mishawakaedu.org. And finally, the MEF would like to thank Dr. Dean Spiker and Mr. Bill Welling for an amazing partnership that we've had with them both. Through their efforts, MEF and SCM have joined forces to make a huge difference in the lives of SCM staff and students. On behalf of Jane and Matt and the entire board, you both will be missed incredibly. And please know that you always have a place with MEF, and that's a promise from Jane. And until MEF properly thanks you both on October 17th at the Growing the Future dinner in your honor, best wishes to you both. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 3.04, general public. I don't believe anyone is registered to address the board, so we'll move on to the consent agenda portion. Item 4.01, approval of the minutes of the June 12, 2019 regular meeting of the Board of School Trustees. It is recommended that the minutes of the June 12, 2019 regular meeting of the board be approved as presented. Item 4.02, approval of bill warrants and payroll. It is recommended that the bill warrants and payroll in the amount of $3,326,456.00 be approved for payment from the appropriate funds. Item 4.03, approval of the financial report. It is recommended that the financial report dated May 19 be approved as presented. Item 4.04, approval of the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as
Move
presented?
for approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda as presented. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item 5.01, personnel report. Mr. Rigler?
President Curry, Dr. Spiker, members of the board, it's recommended that the personnel report dated June 26, 2019 be approved as presented.
Move for a motion. Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the report as presented. Is there any discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item 5.02, recommendation on building leaders and administrative appointments for the 2019-2020 contract year. Dr. Spiker?
Senior in building leadership has had a very robust interviewing schedule the past 60 days. SCAM has received a sizable number of applicants for the following building leadership roles: Principals of Liberty and LaSalle Elementary Schools, Dean of Students at Mishawaka High School, SEM has also received a large number of applicants for curriculum integration specialist, K-12, coordinator of fine arts, K-12, and assistant athletic director, K-12. I want to thank a number of people who are on the senior leadership team, also on the building leadership teams, who have spent hours interviewing all of these various candidates. For example, when we have a vacancy in either the senior leadership staff or our building leadership, we're getting more applicants than we've ever gotten in the history of the school system. As an example, for the Liberty elementary principalship, we had 39 applicants for that job. And I don't know the exact number, but I think the staff ended up interviewing 9 people for that particular leadership role. For the Dean of Students, we had 29 applicants, and I think you ended up interviewing something like 8 or 9 people for that particular role. On the administrative appointments for the Assistant Athletic Director role, we had 48 applicants for that particular position. And I think there were about 10 applicants that were interviewed in the first round, and the group then recommended only one applicant for Mr. Barker and myself and Dean Huppert and Mr. Calderoni and Mr. Ross to talk to for that particular position. We had 24 applicants for the Coordinator of Fine Arts position, and Mr. Barker and myself and Mr. Calderoni and Mr. Ross and Mrs. Hickel were involved in all of those interviews. And we had 23 applicants for the curriculum integration specialist, a K-12 role again. And I think we ended up interviewing 15 people told for that particular position, because we have a policy in the school system, maybe it's a practice more than a policy, whereby if we have internal applicants, we always interview internal applicants, because we look at the opportunity when we interview internal applicants as an opportunity to coach them for their futures. A number of them aren't quite ready for this role, but they have great potential to be leaders in the school system. And so we use coaching as part of the interviewing process for our internal applicants, as well as some of our external applicants. So at this time, I'm going to make individual recommendations. First of all, we are recommending on behalf of Mr. Barker, the superintendent-elect, and myself, and the team that interviewed, we're recommending Rebecca Cummings to serve as principal of the Liberty School. That would be the first recommendation.
Move for a motion. Second.
Is there any discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
At this
Opposed?
time, I would like to introduce Rebecca Cummings. Rebecca, would you step up here? This is Rebecca. We want to welcome you as the new principal of Liberty Elementary. Anything you would like to say to the board or to the community?
I didn't know I was going to talk. I am beyond excited to become a part of the Mishawaka School Corporation, and I cannot wait to get started. I've already been into Liberty, and tomorrow I'm going to spend the whole day with Mrs. Mabry going over things and getting it rolling. So I thank you for this opportunity, and I look forward to working with all of you.
Talk a little bit about your experience.
I've just, on this Friday, I will finish up my contract, and this will be my 19th year in education. I've had 7 years at John Glenn School Corporation as the elementary school's assistant principal. So I split between both of the elementaries. I've had the opportunity to be the corporation test coordinator, the 504 coordinator in those 7 years, along with several other opportunities to do several things, curriculum implementation, and I've guided and helped move us forward in some of our scores and some of our testing and academics. And then prior to that, I was in South Bend as an assistant principal at a middle school when it was an intermediate center, 5 through 8. And so I spent 2 years, 5 through 8, at Navarre Intermediate, and had great success there, but wanted to expand my base because I had not had elementary school experience, and so wanted to really, so when I had the opportunity to move to John Glenn, that's the opportunity that I took. So had several years in the classroom in South Bend, and then behind the desk, the administrative desk, as the assistant principal in that intermediate setting, and then have spent my last 7 years in an elementary setting, and am thrilled to have my own building and staff to just build great culture and students and just get everybody involved. So again, I am excited to be here. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Welcome.
The next recommendation is Laura Sigler to serve as Dean of Students at Mishawaka High School. Is Laura here?
Oh, she is.
Come up, Laura.
Hi.
We're gonna have you stand here until the board hires you.
We'll do the vote.
And then, once the board hires you, we'll give you an opportunity to speak.
Well, it's like my interview with Mr. Ross. He said, when you were a student at Mishawaka, you didn't take my accounting class. So that's a knock against you from the get-go. I'm like, oh, man, that'd come
All
back
right.
to bite me.
Is there a motion to approve the recommendation?
Second.
Is there any discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Welcome aboard.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, give your background. Mishawaka High School grad, has been away for a while.
Yep. I'm a very proud 2000 graduate of Mishawaka High School. Spent my entire career at Mishawaka in Mishawaka schools. Went to Manchester College and ended up staying in the Wabash area. This is my 15th year in education. I did 10 years in the classroom. And the last 5 years, I've been the assistant principal at a 5 through 8 middle school building. When I was talking with the interview team, I said this is just my opportunity to come home. My husband and I have been wanting to do this for a long time, bring our kids back to Mishawaka. I've got friends here, family here. My best friend is like, when can we go house hunting? So I'm very blessed for this opportunity, and very happy to be able to come home. So I thank you for that.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome back.
Next, for some K-12 appointments, Julie Facette to serve as Assistant Athletic Director at, she'll be located at Mishawaka High School, but it's a K-12 leadership position. So that is a recommendation for your consideration.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Accept the recommendation for Ms. Facette to serve as Assistant Athletic Director. All in favor? Is there any discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
I don't think Julie is here, but I'll just give you a little of her background. Julie is also a Mishawaka High School graduate. She has been, well, she left Mishawaka High School and went to Purdue University. She is one of those rare people who ended up with a degree in industrial technology. So she has had a parallel career up in the Detroit suburbs. She's at Northville High School now, where she was a very successful industrial technology teacher and was running a FIRST robotics program and took her teams to national several times with First Robotics, and also at the same time was a volleyball coach and took her team to the state on 2 different occasions as a volleyball coach. We think that she's going to bring a lot of energy to the athletic department, and Dean Huppert will have his work cut out for him with 3 ladies down there who are high energy, and so he's going to have a great team to be able to continue to develop.
Coach, you've had someone that you've crossed paths with that has been your mentor and given you the ability to go beyond where you thought you could go. And I guess the point that I want to make is that when Dr. Spiker finally agreed to be the interim superintendent 4 years ago, he became the mentor for this school district. And it was a life-changing event. It gave us the ability to reach for something that we didn't think we could reach for. And from my experience this last 4 years, and he said something that really hit home, and that he said that, with Dean will listen. Dean listens to you, and he takes what you tell him and he puts it up here, and it works its way through the system that he's got up there, and it works. He's listening to you and he's taking your ideas, and you're contributing, and you can feel it and you can see it. And I said, you're right. I mean, I've seen it in action. And that's the true mark of a leader. Someone that will listen, someone that does not take credit. And I want to tell you, I mean, if it wasn't for Dean, we wouldn't be here today. Thank you, Dean.
Thank you.
Well, if you'd asked me 5 years ago if we'd be in the position that we are today, I would have asked what you were smoking, 'cause I just didn't see how that would be possible. When I was a kid, every kid on the block, and the block swarmed with kids. We all wore red ball jets, and the slogan was "Run faster, jump higher," and that's what we're doing here. Because of Dr. Spiker and the team that he's put together, we're surpassing, I think, what our own expectations were for ourselves just a few years ago. And it's not that Dean has done all this on his own. He's done something actually much more difficult, much more remarkable. He's provided us with a culture and an ambition and a way of looking at things that have changed the way that we used to look at things. And we've achieved these things not just because of Dean, but we've achieved these things because of what we do together. The dynamics of what happens here are so much different than what they are in most places, in most workplaces. That's a very complicated and difficult thing to achieve, but once you achieve it, and the whole idea of growing leaders in a culture of excellence, it achieves a momentum of its own that sustains itself, and that's a tremendous legacy to leave behind. So, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I think we're at the voting part of it now. I don't think we voted. It's been moved and seconded, though, that the Board of School Trustees approve the incentive payment for Dr. Spiker. Is there any discussion? Is there any additional discussion on the motion? If not,
I just wanted to say one last thing. Everybody thought it was a mistake when I called him Dr. Sparker.
so that's how he came in, and that's how he's going to go out, right?
Oh, boy.
All right, we'll call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. And Dean, we couldn't let you get away without some additional little doodad that I know you absolutely need for your mantle. So we have, and I know Jen wants to take a photograph of this.
That's what we're
So
calling
in
it,
this,
a doodad?
I have to
A
tell you,
doodad.
this does come apart, so you need to be careful with it. But
So
where would
don't
you like?
break it.
Where would you like it? Because you could set it out with the stand or without. Where would you? Okay. Well, if the board could, or do you want it?
Shoot.
You want to come? You want us to come
Yeah,
out
I
there,
think we should
Joe?
come out there. And Dean, this is yours.
It's okay, huh? Gee, thanks. Fun girl.
Where do you want me?
Come on back. The less Holly has to walk around.
I'll come over for Holly. Okay.
Just a blooper. Just what you
I put it in the box.
Yeah, I'll check. Yeah, thank you.
Oh, Jesus. Jeff.
You'll break your foot.
These people out here are used to me giving some kind of a major speech at an event like this. So I'm going to wait until I get down to the vision initiatives, which is toward the end of the meeting. And then I'll have a number of things to say. But just a big thank you to the board for their support. Without their support, none of this could have happened. And I have some specific comments that I want to make about each of them, because they each have made a contribution in their own way and have made a mark on my life in terms of my role here. Also, I cannot thank enough the senior leadership team, our administrative assistants, our building leaders, and all the people that have helped us to develop the culture that we have in the school system. Without them, none of this would have happened. So, I'm humbled by the comments that have been made tonight, and I'm humbled by the work that you folks do every day in terms of making sure that our 5,400 students are served well in the school system. Also to the community, without the community support, we would not have been able to achieve many of these things. The community has invested in the school system, and so we are exceedingly grateful to the community for that support. So I will have more comments directed to them later on in the agenda. So thank you very much.
All right, item 6.01, the Hannah Lindell Children's Museum presentation, Reimagining Our Future. Ms. Fye?
Good evening. Thank you very much, President Curry, Dr. Spiker, members of the board, and members of the community. I'm glad you're here. We have a lot to discuss tonight. I'm hearing a culture of excellence, so we hope that we can be a part of that with the museum that we are envisioning, and want to take you with us in this journey. So it will take me a few minutes to take you through that. I will talk maybe even more quickly than I usually do, so that could be, you're on a wild ride here. But let's go through and tell you a little bit about what I'd like to present to you. Before I do that, though, I want to thank the committee that I've had the honor of working with for the last 5 months in bringing you what I'm going to share with you tonight. I have never seen a group of volunteers work tirelessly like these 5 individuals have to bring you what I have the honor of presenting to you tonight, and I'd like to recognize them. Lisa Gartee, Connie Saltzgaber, Gretchen Winger, Ruth Ann Bauer, and Dave Eggleston. They're amazing, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to work with them. They think they've gotten off the hook, but there's more. So what I would like to do tonight is take you through the process that we've gone through in the last 5 months. I'd like to tell you a little bit about our vision. We call it Museum 2.0, and hope that at some point there'll be a 3.0 and a 4.0. Would also like to talk to you about the progress we've made and the things we have yet to do. Also, we'll talk about the support that we would like to have from the board and bring all of that to you, again, to make you as excited as we are. Some of the information I'll share with you tonight, as I said, is going to go very quickly, but you have some backup support for some additional documentation, and certainly there'll be a time for questions if you have any. So let's get into it. First of all, you're used to a museum that has served the school corporation and has served traditionally K through 6, maybe more. We want to continue that as we move forward, but we also want to make sure that we have a museum that is appealing to all ages. If parents are coming with their kids, we want them to be able to go through the museum and say, that was a great time. I'm glad that our children had a good time, but I had a good time too, and grandparents. Hopefully they can reminisce and look at an object and say, I had one of those, and have the fun that those conversations will bring. And I could probably give some examples that you would all share with me, but I'll keep our ages out of this. So we really want to appeal to all visitors. There were 4 main goals that drove us as we went through this process. Certainly maintaining an alliance with School City of Mishawaka. That's important to us. You've been there since the beginning, and we want to continue that alliance. It might look different, but certainly we want that alliance to be there. We want to become self-sustaining. We want to fulfill our vision and mission, which I will share with you in a second. And we have that goal of becoming a regional attraction, bringing more people to Mishawaka. We'll talk about location in a bit, and there was never a question that what we are trying to do will take place in Mishawaka. So that's very, very important to us. As far as strategic focus areas, we will spend some time talking to you a bit about that vision, Museum 2.0, the staffing that it'll take, the location kind of requirements, because we will be moving, and finally the funding. All of those present interesting challenges, but we have to start somewhere. So I think you'll be excited by what we're going to share. Is everything that we're saying realistic? It can be. It can be, but it's going to take a lot of work. And we are not fooling ourselves in one way at all that it isn't going to take a lot of work. The strategic planning process that we went through that drove us over these past 5 months, we created a new vision statement and mission statement. We determined the values with which we wanted to conduct business, both internally and externally. We identified champions, people that we thought were our cheerleaders for our organization, people that maybe weren't before and would become cheerleaders or are now. We also went through a SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. That's always painful. And it was painful for us as well. But it was a process we had to go through to understand what the next part of this setting goals and objectives needed to be. And finally, we started to look at a budget. We are not at a point yet where we can do that fully, but we certainly started that process. I'm not pushing it hard enough. The vision statement that I'd like to share, and I'm going to try very, very hard not to read to you because I understand that's offensive, but there are some things that I want to make sure that you hear, but I'm not even going to read the whole thing here, but you see some bolded words there, and I want you to see that. We're looking at a community where curiosity about history ignites enthusiastic learning. That's what we're going for in this community. And we want to play a part in that, and we think we can by creating a vibrant learning environment through interactive displays, experiences, and events designed to bring history to life. I hope you feel the same passion that we do. Obviously, we've been working on this for 5 months. You're hearing about it now, but I hope that you can feel the enthusiasm in that vision and that mission statement. It's so very important to what we're doing. It's what drives us. Everything that we do has to reflect that. We decided to keep some of the values that we have had in the past and also add some. Again, I will not read all of those to you, but there are some key words. In terms of heritage, we certainly want to honor and appreciate our heritage here in Mishawaka. In terms of learning, we feel we are a learning institution, and we want to continue that process. Certainly, we have to do that if we want the alliance with School City of Mishawaka. We believe that caring for our collection, the stewardship part of this is extremely important. Collaboration always has to be a part of what we do, whether it be with our visitors, with our groups, with our partners, we have to collaborate. We want to have respect for the stories that we're telling. We want to accurately reflect the history that we are presenting to our visitors. We're always going to be interested in growth. We'll never stop doing that. We certainly want it to include creativity in everything that we do, whether it be business processes, whether it be displays, and anything and everything in between. And we want to have fun. We want to have fun doing it. We want you to have fun when you're there. We want you to come back again and again and again because the experience was fun. And we feel that fun draws people. And I have a feeling it might draw you as well. So what I'd like to do as we move through this is cover those 4 areas that we talked about and tell you kind of what our progress to date has been, and then tell you a little bit about what is still on the horizon. So we broke it into a number of different things when we were looking at Museum 2.0, or our vision for what the museum looks like, acts like, this sort of thing. In terms of displays, we spent a good amount of time brainstorming as to what displays might be, what stories we wanted to tell. And as we worked with Sarah Hickel and looked at learning objectives and whatnot, we tried to keep those in mind as we went forward with the kinds of stories we wanted to tell. We decided that every single display had to incorporate a past, present, and future component. So that's maybe the history part of it, but we also know that you're very intent on making the students understand careers and have a career awareness, and we felt there was no better place to do this in terms of the displays as well, in the sense that we use the general store sometimes as an example. So if we have our general store on Main Street in the museum, and we might ask those questions about, what do you think, who do you think worked here, and what kind of skills do you think they had to have, and what happens now? Is there a general store now? Does it look the same? And what kind of people work there? And what do you think they do? And how did they get there? And what about the future? What is it going to look like? In my mind, I'll just think in it and it appears, which will change some of the skills and the careers out there, but get them thinking and tying history to the past and the future. Also, throughout that, not only will we use technology in what we are trying to do in terms of displays, but we also want to have a component of communication and technology throughout those displays to understand what was happening then. How did people communicate? How did we get in touch with others, and how does that happen now? And what is the technology that went with that? We're also working very feverishly, and we'll of course need museum expertise as we go forward, but I have a pretty creative bunch working on this, that we're really going to focus on display-related activities. You heard me say interactivity earlier. That's very, very important to us. Again, as someone comes in, it's going to be an educational institution. They have to learn, and we learn by using all of our senses. So we're going to use as many of those senses as we can in those activities. So lots more about displays, but that gives you an idea what's been done so far. And again, you have some of the information in your packets to tell you what some of those displays are and the process we've gone through. We know that people cannot come to the museum now, so we hope to take the museum to them when that is appropriate. So there may be mobile displays that will go out. We talked to several members of the community who have shared with us that they would be very, very open to having some sort of display, whether it's artifacts or pictures or whatever it might be, something to keep the museum alive in the community. So again, taking the museum to them. We're looking at partnerships. We're strengthening the partnership we have with you. Again, it may look a little different than it does now, but that's not a bad thing. But we also want to form new alliances. We have already identified some donors in the community that are very interested in what we're doing and are interested in making some donations, some very exciting ones. And I have to say this to you very quickly, that no matter how many people we have talked to, and there have been several, every single person has been enthusiastic about what we're trying to do. The passion in this community, I know you living in the community, you understand that, but it is so exciting to see when you're trying something new and people are supportive and want to be involved. So I congratulate you for that, and I'm glad to be a part of it, even if it's tangentially. Also, we've talked, this might seem like a strange partner, but we've talked to Goodwill. Goodwill, as I had a conversation with them about what we're doing, said, you know, we're getting things all the time that we had to remind ourselves that history just isn't the 1700s and the 1800s. History is when I was alive, you know, the 1900s. And so we have to remember that we need things there to tell the story. And my friends at Goodwill said, well, you know, we get this kind of stuff all the time. So maybe we can work out something so that we can help with items and things to tell your story. So we thought that was a very interesting partnership and certainly something to be explored. We've talked with several of the community and government resources, Mishawaka Parks. Phil is amazing. He has been so helpful to us and wants to stay involved. Some of you may be familiar with Gears and Granger, which is robotics-based and focusing on STEM. We want to involve STEM in our museum. We want that to take place in terms of activities and weaving that in with history. Can I tell you exactly how that's going to happen today? No. But it follows exactly what you're trying to do and making this as all-inclusive as it possibly can be. We've also worked with regional museums. History Museum, Conner Prairie have absolutely been helpful to us as we've sorted through some things and said, tell us exactly, you know, what we should do here, what you think, and they've turned us on to resources, and we're so thankful for that. And that relationship will continue. We will visit another museum in the next couple of weeks and just keep gathering information. We all feel like sponges. In the museum, we will have a gift shop, but it'll be bigger and better, lots more things, and different price points. We want things to appeal not only to the kids, but to the parents and adults that are with them. We've spent a lot of time looking at events. We want events to be a major part of what we're doing. Obviously, that represents revenue, but it also represents an opportunity to bring in more visitors. They're going to be excited to be there. Things like a mystery theater, perhaps something like trivia night, and focusing on Mishawaka history. Not that this is the first time it's ever been done, but there may be a place for that the museum can be involved. We're looking at event period galas, as it were, you know, just to dress in a time period and to have a party. But all those things that could be possible ways to get our story out and involve people in our community. We've done some work in the marketing arena. It's been important to us to stay visible as much as we can, which is a little challenging simply because we are closed and people have been confused as to what's happening with you. So we're continually trying to get the story out. We worked with people here in the administration to help us do that, and so we will continue to do that. We are looking at membership levels and admission rates and saying there's probably a better way to do this. I'm not going to tell you that we're ready to suggest this or that, but we've started to look and say there are probably more benefits that we can give our members that'll be meaningful to them and bring on new members. As far as admission rates, key to that is affordability. We want a family to be able to come again and again and again and bring their children and not feel that we've priced them out of the market. So do we think we can raise our admission rates? Yes, we probably can, but not to a point where they would not be affordable. And we believe that we are going to adopt a new name. We have several criteria there that I'll go over with you very quickly. That is not in any way, shape, or form to dismiss the impact that Hannah Lindell has had on the museum, and we will create a Hannah Lindell Hall of Champions, and she will, of course, be our first champion, or certainly one of the first. So I do not want anyone to be alarmed by that suggestion that we're looking at a name change, but we believe if we're moving towards a new museum, that may be in order so that people will understand what we do. It should reflect learning and curiosity. We'd like something a little shorter if we can do that, something easily remembered. If it had a great acronym, we'd love that. That isn't necessarily something that has to be true, but we certainly hope it happens. It's got to appeal to kids, and it's got to be fun. So I know you're getting tired of fun, but that's part of what we're looking at. Now, in terms of transition, what is there yet to do? We are going to need to work with someone that has a whole lot more expertise than we do. We believe that we've brought you some creative ideas, and there's lots more, and I could probably talk for hours on this, but you don't want me to, but there's lots more out there that we've discussed. But we need someone that has the expertise in the museum world to help us with these displays. We're creating wish lists of the kinds of display items and artifacts we'd like to have. We're trying to recruit new donors and artifactors. And this is fun when right now we're not accepting them necessarily, but we're still planting those seeds to say we want you to be a part of this. And certainly continuing to form those learning activities and decide what those might be. And lots of people are giving us feedback, and it's a great opportunity. You may be familiar with the fact that we give out or lend out, or however you want to say it, education kits to support our teachers in the schools to help them with the particular learning objectives that they might be teaching. Those education kits need to be updated. We have brought a committee together that is meeting for the first time on July 10th, the committee of teachers, to give us feedback on what would be most helpful in those education kits, what do we need to do. I'd love to tell you we can do everything that they'll ask us to do. We aren't going to be able to. We gave the example earlier, if someone says, I'd really like something on the Revolutionary War, and we only have 2 items that refer to the Revolutionary War, I'm not sure I can build an education kit around that. But let's have that conversation. Let's understand what it is that you'd like. This is a little bit location-based, but we are truly hoping for a location that allows us an outside area. And we see that as being something that, again, should still have that history component, should still have that learning component, definitely be interactive. We have identified someone who is doing something very similar in a local child care facility who has said they will volunteer everything that they've learned to help us do this if that should become a reality. So we're excited about those resources that are not necessarily on the bottom line, but are bringing their resources to us because they care about what we're doing. As far as tours, we want tours to be more meaningful. One of the things we've observed as we've gone to the museums is that there aren't necessarily the guided tours when we're talking about individuals. And now that we're opening to the public and we want everyone to come and we want them to come a lot, they need to be able to go to the particular display that they want to go to and feel free to spend as much time there as they want. So we're looking at new ways to communicate things about those displays, whether they're audio tours, whether it's a booklet that gives them the information we'd like to share. We're very intent on that booklet having some activities in it because we'd like the tour to continue after they leave. And that's in terms of having discussion, that's in terms of activities. So something a parent could take back and say, you know, this was a great guide, but it was also a workbook. And we love this and we want to continue to interact with it. That could also go on the website so that we drive visitors to the website. Research is going to be, I'm sorry, I missed relaunch the historical bus tours. I understand we've sort of taken a little bit of a hiatus there. We want to bring those back, work with Pete on that, and bring those back and celebrate those bus tours. They're important, especially to those that are maybe visiting the community that would like to know more about the community. So we want to bring those back. Research is extremely important for us as we build these displays in terms of telling our story, and we believe a great way to continue involving the school corporation and specifically the students is to bring them in on some of those research opportunities. If a class requires research and a topic that would be helpful to us can be research, that would be a great marriage to be able to offer those opportunities and help us do an even better job of what we're doing. So the research is very exciting to us and the ability to involve the students. In terms of marketing, we will have to develop a full marketing plan. We'll finalize the name change and the logo that'll go with it, and we want to update and enhance the website. And that will come in time. These are all things going over that entire transition period. As far as the administration, in order to be self-sustaining, we are going to eventually have to create our own organization. We'll have our own 501c3. We'll need to revise our bylaws, look at our policies and procedures, and update those. We'll identify support personnel. Not every function that has to take place in the museum will take place by a staff member. It may be someone that we contract with or use a third-party provider. And we want to create working budgets both for the transition period and also for the post-transition periods. In terms of staffing, we've identified the transition personnel that we think would be helpful, certainly in supporting the process because we're going to continue going through it. Fundraising, that is something that you need some very definite assistance in. The fundraising will be an extremely important function, and we also need help in terms of making those creative displays. Again, whether those be consultants or eventually a part-time employee, it can be any of those things. I did something wrong. I've got the siren going. As far as job descriptions, we have had our fellow museums share job descriptions with us to help us understand exactly what it is we want particular positions to do and what the wages might be. I was told today by one of our partners that the museum industry is very competitive, and competitive in the sense that there are individuals clamoring for museum jobs. That's really good news to us. Also, we've identified some functions that will have to be performed as part of the museum. Again, it does not have to be a specific person doing each one of these functions as a separate staff position, but it will be incorporated into what we do, and some will be third-party providers. In terms of our transition plan, we'll have to complete that staff planning. We want to outline our recruitment methods and the skill sets that we want to have for those particular individuals. We'd like to create an orientation for our board and our volunteers so that they are even better champions than they already are. And again, identifying that outside support that will help us get the job done. As far as location, we have to move. That's a pretty big challenge. My first request when I go out and talk to someone is, we'd really like you to give us a building, and here's what we'd like it to be. Now, I understand that's not totally realistic, but if you don't ask, you have no chance of getting it. So, and no one's looked at me in horror. I'm not sure if they're understanding what I'm saying. But anyway, as far as the requirements, again, you can take a look at those, but I think the thing that I want you to focus on is what we'd like to have happen. Bullet 4 says located in Mishawaka. I've already told you that, and that is a given. It will be located in Mishawaka. So please find us a building for free. And we also want to make sure that we have dedicated space within this museum space for gift shop, for offices, for storage. If we have to have off-site storage, that is certainly something we could do. We would prefer not. It's been great having the things that are not out on display, having them accessible to us and for us. We want meeting rooms, and we want meeting rooms to do things internally, but we also want meeting rooms. We envision someone coming and saying, I'd like to use your meeting, and it's for a board meeting, for another organization or whatnot, but they're in our museum. And if they're in our museum, they'll be back. So we really feel that's important, and obviously our exhibit and event space. We have some ideas about the layout, but we know that's a little bit silly until we see the location. But we do have kind of a working model in our mind. We won't share that because it may never come to fruition. But we had to have something to give ourselves thoughts as we were trying to plan this. And so that was in case something that was very, very important to us. As far as the transition plan for location, we're going to be continually looking at partners that will help us with potential sites. We're going to have to finalize that layout and design. And the physical move probably scares us as much as anything. If you've walked through the museum lately, you know that's going to take a lot of work simply to move it. To pack it, move it, and unpack it is an unbelievable task, but we are up to it. When we look at funding, we have met with a funding consultant just to get an idea of how that works. Certainly have not identified anybody. It would have been inappropriate to do that. But we want to understand what's out there for us as we move through this process. We would love to think that there might be someone out there that says, look, I have some experience here, and I will, I'll give you some of those hours, as a donation. Again, we're not afraid to ask for that, but we want someone that will help us raise the kinds of funds that we eventually determine that we need. We'll lay that groundwork by meeting with potential supporters. It is not too early for us to start telling people our story and what we're planning. And as I said to you earlier, without an exception, people have been very excited about what this group has come up with. We want to research grant opportunities, obviously, and we may eventually have to contract with a funding consultant. So that all leads to this final comment about what we would really like to have in terms of your support. And so I have some very specific things that I'd like to list. First of all, we would like to remain in the current location with Survive Alive for up to 2 years, less depending on our progress with our location. So kind of keep things the way they are, only obviously, even if we're in that location, there are all kinds of things we will be doing in this interim. I think I've outlined them for you to keep us busy. inventorying, all kinds of things. We would like to maintain the current level of access to School City of Mishawaka personnel in the same way that we've used them before. The administrative staff has been very supportive of what we've done. The teachers, the students, we would like to continue to have that access to the staff. If we go through the mobile displays and actually put those things together, we may need help moving them. And so if we could even use vehicles when we need to do that, that would be very helpful to us. Again, we need to go through and inventory what we have, and for gifting purposes and probably for insurance purposes or whatnot, we'll need to value that inventory in some way. And we would really very much like to keep you posted, and towards that end, we would like your constant input, and so we would like to request some individual working in a liaison capacity that can continue to bring our story to you, not that we can't, but someone that you're dealing with on a daily, weekly, monthly basis that can keep you updated and help you give us input. Those are the things that we're asking for at this point. I would say to you that, again, it has been a pleasure working on this project. I couldn't be more excited about what this group has come up with, and I know that Lisa Garti, who is the president of the Museum Advisory Board, has a few remarks she would like to share, and when she completes those remarks, if there are questions of any kind that we can offer, we will certainly do that. Thank you very much.
No PowerPoint for me. Good evening, President Curry, Dr. Spiker, members of the board. To say that the last 13 months have been challenging at the museum would probably not surprise anyone. We, the volunteers, as well as School City of Mishawaka employees, have had to take on tasks that we've never done before, like speaking at a school board meeting. I think for the most part, we've done this with a minimal amount of whining and a surprising amount of success. One of my favorite new experiences has been to host visitors to the museum. Last November, I had my very first meeting with Jan Fye and gave her a quick peek at part of the museum. Her first question to me in accusing tone was, "Why don't I know about this place?" She then introduced me to a new concept by saying, this could absolutely be a regional attraction. I explained what we were trying to do as best I could and suggested we would probably need to reduce our size and our offerings in light of our reduced revenue. She respectfully offered that maybe what we needed was to dream bigger. As you can tell from the information she's just presented, we have taken her words to heart. We have dreamed of doing all the things we've longed to do for many years, and then created a realistic plan for accomplishing these goals that's rooted in a continuing partnership with School City of Mishawaka. From that first meeting on January 30th, 1946, with Mrs. Carol Hillier, Superintendent P.C. Emmons, Dr. John Young, Ms. Hannah Lindell, and others, the school system has invested in this institution to enhance the education of their students and the community. Over the years, we've grown from a classroom to a house, to part of a school campus with many innovations along the way. School City's challenge for us to re-envision indicates that it is once again time for us to grow to become an even better educational asset to future generations. If you look around the room, you will notice people wearing Hannah Lindell Children's Museum pins. And I would ask all of you in attendance tonight who are here to support the museum to please raise your hands. Thank you. This community support, combined with the endorsement and backing of School City of Mishawaka, proves that the new version of the Children's Museum is a project whose time has come. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone on the board have any questions or comments?
I'm excited for it to become a children's museum.
I
I think making it relevant is going to improve everything about it. As a student going through it or as a community person going through it, making it relevant, making it modern is going to be the thing that's going to push it forward. So sounds like you guys have a great plan, and I hope that you see it through and that it succeeds. So it's worth saving.
I think what's critical is that right now it's hidden. I mean, nobody knows where it's at or where to go or that it's even there. And I think marketing it and communication will certainly help. And I think the outreach to the community for the fundraising will certainly gain some awareness of your mission and what you're trying to do, and I think that will help. It's been hidden for too long.
I think the objectives that you've presented definitely can make this a regional attraction and definitely an attraction for the Mishawaka area.
Well, I've been going to the museum since I was about 8 years old, and been an artifactor, I think, for almost 20 years. And so I'm very encouraged by the breadth, the scope, the detail of the planning that you're doing. And I agree with Ms. Parks that one of the things that I think it's held it back is it's very hard to find. I mean, I know where it is, and I have a hard time finding it. And with the hours, if there's a greater visibility, greater accessibility, so that it can be available during times when schools are not in session, I think there's just they're great opportunities for you to achieve that regional success. And, thank you very much for a very well designed presentation. You have a comment?
No.
This is appearing on the agenda as an action item, but my understanding is that actually we're not intended to take action until
Next
month.
July
So
10th.
this is an information item only, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
But I would like to review the recommendations that the administration is making for your consideration on July 10th. And those are the items that are listed A through G. And they mirror some of the comments and one of the slides that Mrs. Fye talked about. Remain in the current location with Survive Alive for up to 2 years or less, depending on relocation progress. We've had discussions with the city, with the fire department, that probably the best solution for Survive Alive long-term is to make it mobile so that it can be taken out to schools such as Mishawaka schools, PHM schools, private schools, Catholic schools, and even to preschools and various places. So long-term, some kind of a major partnership with the fire department and the city, I think, is going to be important for the Survive Alive solution. B, maintain current level of in-kind access to administrative support teachers, students for continuous business operations, projects, and research. C, SCM to appraise the current collection for determining the value for insurance purposes. My understanding is that if we were to get some high-powered expert appraiser of museum items, that this could ultimately work against future accreditation for the museum when they go independent. So we need to do it from the standpoint of insurance, an insurance appraiser, not an artifact appraiser, as I understand it. And Jan, you need to correct any of my statements that are incorrect. D, access to museum extracurricular funds Their current balance is $73,088.02. So these are extracurricular funds that are basically the school corporation has responsibility for them currently. And these are funds that could be accessible to the museum moving forward. Alex, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, the ECA funds, those are museum funds. Those are funds that they generated for their purposes. So while the school corporation oversees that money, in addition to the school board, it's money they generated.
Okay. So those dollars could be available for creating education kits, mobile displays, part-time staffing that they're talking about, and other approved expenditures. All approvals would be working with the leadership of the museum and the superintendent of schools, Mr. Barker. Access to SCM assets as approved by the superintendent of schools. Again, they talked about the truck for moving mobile displays or other assets. F, provide an SCM liaison during the 2-year transition period. Mr. Barker and I have had discussions about this, and I think he has some ideas whom that might be in terms of his leadership group. G, one that I feel strongly about, if we're going to continue the momentum that this group has moving forward, and if they have any chance of relocating the museum in the next 2 years, that is to retain Jan Phi and her group for 1 year, August 1 of 2019 through July 31 of 2020. And I'm suggesting that this be from SCM funds, and that the superintendent, Mr. Barker, would be responsible for negotiating a monthly retainer as part of the independent consultant agreement. So these things will be before you at the July 10th board meeting for your consideration.
Thank you. Anything from the board on this? All right, then we'll move on to the next point on the agenda, 6.02, a report on Skyward implementation plan. Mr. Lamont?
Thank you, President Curry, Dr. Spiker, members of the board, audience members. I'm excited to be here this evening. Are you able to post that presentation, please? To share an update as far as our implementation with our student information system, Skyward. Back in February 2019, if you recall, you approved the work group's unanimous selection of Skyward as our next SIS, Student Information System. And following that approval, we actively identified performance benchmarks that we could then use to track and monitor our progress towards the goal of having Skyward be an operational system for our staff and students beginning with the 2019-2020 school year. Just from a visual standpoint of things, you can certainly see that we have been working very diligently on several of those items that are listed, and we're going to kind of walk through some of those that are not yet accomplished and are still in progress, and then outline exactly how we intend to get those finished in a timely manner. So those items that are still listed as being incomplete or in progress, we have specific dates in which we've already established when we intend to accomplish those. A lot of these items are done so through consultation with the Skyward consultants. So whether it be an on-site training or a WebEx in which we are video chatting with stakeholders from Skyward, we problem solve, we go through different questions, they seek to understand our current process and how we intend to move forward with different things in regards to the SIS. 3 big milestones that we want to kind of emphasize, the first being the data migration, number 1. This was completed back in May 2019. Basically, a migration is they're going to take all of the information from Alma, they're going to extract it out, and they're going to import it into Skyward to make it user-friendly. So they're going to make sure that everything matches where it needs to match, All the information is formatted in such a way that is conducive to our students and to our practice. And we were really proud of that first migration being completed again as of May. The second migration that you see up there, just as of this morning, that was extracted from Alma, which is a big deal. This is the motherlode of all the data. So this is all of the student-specific information, all of their historical grade records, schedules, grading periods, GPA calculations, etc. It was a massive undertaking, but we just got word that that is done as of this morning. And so now we will begin that process on Skyward's behalf as far as mapping to make sure all the fields match, again, all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted, etc. The third and final migration, it will happen later in October or early October time, and that will be reflective of the summer school. So any disciplinary action that's taken, any grades, records, etc. that occur as of June 14th and beyond in Alma will then be part of that third and final data migration. So those first two are really big accomplishments and have required a lot of communication, a lot of consultation, and a lot of people. So we're pretty proud of that, and thank you to those individuals. Looking forward to next steps, the big piece with any big project, of course, is always communication. And in this area of things, the student information system is certainly not the most exciting of topics to be talking about, but it is unequivocally one item that will touch every single stakeholder group in our district. And albeit the past, we certainly have a lot of work to do as far as the way in which we are using that system. And we look forward to kind of embarking that with our teachers and our staff and our support staff as well. So communication will be the next step that we work towards. I've already kind of spoken to that data verification process and what that will require, a lot of man hours of just making sure information is moved over correctly. That third next step will be the syncs. So that is like a Clever or Canvas. So making our student information system merge nicely with other systems is just the simplest way to say it. And that is a critical component as far as making the ability for our students to sign on to different things easy with an ID or a badge. Those things have to be put into place, and all of those connections have to be made prior to us being operational for the next school year. So that's really a big component, and we'll talk about that in a bit. The third and final piece is professional learning. Much like the importance with communication, professional learning is as equally as important. We can certainly have all of these things done, but if our staff don't feel comfortable and confident in using the system day one, we've already lost that battle. So we're actively working around those obstacles, making ourselves accessible, putting a lot of opportunity out there, giving resources, etc. And that goes back to the communication piece of things, that we've got to start messaging different areas to all of our different stakeholder groups, but we're embarking on that process right now. Speaking to professional learning, the visual that you see up there is our Skyward specific professional learning summer calendar. So all of those items listed there are different training events, the WebExes that I spoke to earlier. They certainly are not required of all stakeholder groups. There are some that are specific just to teachers, some that are specific to building secretaries or building principals, etc. But we have already done a lot of work in this area as far as the weekly consulting calls, engaging key focus groups, being our partners in tech, to get their input on how we should implement and roll out and communicate different aspects of this project. And then we look forward to offering an on-site training to 75 of our teachers, in addition to building secretaries, technology assistants, and again, the building principals. I kind of emphasized earlier the critical steps that have to happen, these three being those critical benchmarks. If the data migration and the data verification go awry, that would certainly prove problematic for the overall process and the timeline that we've put in place. So we have to be cognizant of that. We can certainly be proactive in our efforts to make sure that the presentation of all that information, all of the data, is as clean as it possibly can be, but there inevitably could be errors, there could be mistakes, there could be unforeseen circumstances that delay things. So we're certainly being optimistic and positive about that, but also recognizing that there are some barriers that we will have to overcome. That is being one of them, the syncs being the second. If our syncs aren't put into place, we certainly can't expect our staff to be ready to go day one. So again, actively working to overcome any of those barriers that may be in place. The third is transcripts. This is kind of interesting, being that the third migration is not happening until October, Any student information that occurs throughout the summertime won't be reflected in Skyward. So if a student were to hypothetically need a transcript, we would have to work around that obstacle of getting that information to it. The nice part, so if we've identified the barrier, which we have done, how we are going to overcome that, we have Alma. We still have access, full access to Alma for the entire school year, so all of that information is still in Alma. And so we've identified the ways in which we work around that obstacle should it become a reality, but that is not likely. Opportunities. While we recognize this is a big project, it certainly could be done so in a silo. But much like anything else, it's not the best for our students, it's not best for our staff, and it's not best for us as a district. We have to recognize that Skyward and this whole project is an opportunity for us to do better because we know better, right? So we are recognizing the ability to review our systems and our processes, whether it be how we take attendance, how we record lunch counts, and the way that it's done in one building certainly looks different than the way that it's done in another building. And those variations are okay in a lot of cases, but we also want to recognize that our staff time is very valuable, and if we can give some of that time back to them simply by using a system that makes things more efficient, that they can spend more time engaging with students or spending time in instruction, we're certainly going to capitalize on that opportunity. So we are focused on the alignment of those systems and processes, as well as looking towards the future and the ability to utilize the online forms component. So this could certainly be several years down the road, depending on conversations that would still need to be had, but the ability to go digital, get rid of all the paper forms, and have that enrollment process with support and recognizing the barriers that we would have to overcome, have that enrollment process be all online, where a parent would log on and fill out different forms, etc., without ever having to touch a piece of paper. Bigger picture than that too, looking at the archiving of our paper records, uploading and attaching different files to a specific student in the SIS, so that when he or she moved from one building to the other, it wasn't a process of uploading or lugging around big boxes. We simply pushed the button and that student moved and all of his or her information went with that student as well. So we're recognizing all the opportunities that exist in this process as well. There's been a lot of work, but we have a lot of work to go, a lot of work to do still. I want to recognize the work of lots of different people. Alison Kirchner, today was her last day with us. She's worked very diligently on this process. It's been a nice collaboration between the technology department, Mr. Eric Johnson, Chris Mabey, Carrie Miles, as well as the curriculum and instruction department. So a lot has been accomplished, a lot to be had, but we are moving right along. Any questions?
I just want to make a statement, and the statement is that we are trying to align our student information system more closely with our building operations and more closely with curriculum and instruction. In other words, the SIS system really belongs in the curriculum and instruction department, not in the technology department. And so we're going to be looking at, and Mr. Barker has been part of this whole discussion for the last 30 days at least. And so we're going to be looking at that transition and how all that's going to happen over the next 2 or 3 weeks. And it just absolutely has to be connected to curriculum and instruction and not be thought of as in the technology department silo.
I have a lot of clients that change information, like change their major system like this. And there have been some times where it's gone really bad. But I'm recognizing all the hard work that the team has put into this. And that makes me feel really good, not only as an auditor, but as a board member, knowing that you guys are taking all the right steps. You're making sure that everything's going smoothly. You're identifying barriers. All that's so important because it may not seem that important on the high level, but when you're a student trying to get your transcript because you're trying to, go to university, like that's so important. Like right there to that person, that's important. And you're adding value to all of us, but every single student that comes through this school corporation. So thank you to you and your team, and we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, it's nice to know. I understand that Alma, for all its flaws, is going to be available as a backup system to this.
Correct.
And when you say for the school year, that's the 2019-20 school year?
Yes, sir.
So it ought to give plenty of opportunities to, if you hit one of those barriers and have an issue, that you have a plan B.
Yep, the rainy day plan.
Thank you. I think it's good planning.
Thank you. Thank you.
Very good.
Moving on to item 7.01, acceptance of donations. Dr. Spiker.
$100 from Todd Wilbur, Cheryl Frank, and Sheila Rogers in memory of Hope Chris Overgis to the Exceptional Learners Department at Mishawaka High School. We will follow up thanking these folks for their generous donation.
Move for approval.
Second?
Been moved and seconded to accept the donation. Is there any discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item 7.02, approval of food service bids for 2019-2020 school year. Mr. Newman and Ms. Baer.
Thank you, President Curry, Dr. Spiker, members of the board. I want to first thank Ms. Peggy Baer. As I'm giving the presentation, she is here to answer any questions, but I want to be very clear, she did the vast majority, if not all the work that went into this agenda item. So I want to be sure to give her credit. If the school board recalls, School City of Mishawaka became a member of the Northern Indiana Educational Services Center, or the NIESC, during the 2016-2017 school year, and we began utilizing them for their services to assist in the preparation of annual bids for bread, dairy, major food, commodities, and produce. Proposals for the 2019-2020 were due from vendors on May 3rd, and on May 14th, Peggy Baer, in addition to other food service directors that are members of the NIESC, met to review proposals and select vendors. With the board's approval this evening, School City of Mishawaka's awarded bidders for 1920 are Aunt Millie's for bread, Prairie Farms for dairy, GFS and HPS for the major cafeteria food, commodities, and produce. Similar to previous years, Lisa Abel, who is the Assistant Director of Cooperative Purchasing for the NIESC, has included a narrative on the process for the awarded bids. Again, the NIESC helps ensure compliance with all the state and federal procurement guidelines, which are very exhaustive. The administration recommends bids from Aunt Millie's, Prairie Farms, and GFS HPS for the 1920 school year. We've worked with each of these vendors in previous years, and we have no concerns about them meeting our needs. I didn't include it with the information, but we have the very long and extensive bid sheets from each bid in mine and Peggy's office if the board were interested in looking at those. We're happy to answer any questions the board has, but we're asking for approval as presented.
Move for approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the recommendation. Is there any discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item 7.03, approval of paid lunch prices for the 2019-2020 school year. Again, Mr. Newman and Ms. Baer.
Thank you, President Curry. Again, all Peggy Baer. As part of the Hunger Free Kids Act of 2010, school food authorities are required to review their paid lunch revenue annually to ensure compliance with what they call the paid lunch equity requirement. As part of that PLE requirement, school food authorities, or in this case the school corporation, is required to increase their paid lunch prices gradually until the school reaches the USDA's targeted rate. Their targeted rate for 2019-20 is $3. Our current lunch prices are well below that, but there is an exemption you can apply for to the Indiana Department of Education, and you can apply for this if your food service has a positive balance in their school lunch account as of December 31st of 2018 in this case. School City of Mishawaka, as the school board is well aware, we have a very positive balance in that account. So when we shared that with them, they did approve us for the for the waiver, so we do not have to increase our paid lunch prices, and that's what we would like to do. So we're proposing to the school board that we keep our lunch prices at the elementary level at $2.20, and at the secondary level, $2.30 for the upcoming school year.
Well, that seems like a great service to our families and our
Yes,
children.
yes.
Thank you.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the recommendation. Is there any discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Moving on to the reports and discussion items. 8.01, the May financial report. Mr. Newman?
Thank you, President Curry. As always, if there are any questions from the board, please feel free to ask them. Sometimes I feel like I just kind of go through the financials, but until we really get to June 30th or closer to the end of the year, or unless there's, really something to highlight in that month, there's really not much to say. In the education fund, again, our salaries and benefits and our expenses as a whole, in addition to the revenue, are well within how we budgeted them. We're right there around 42%, 40 to 42% in those categories. So we're basically as expected. Really, there's nothing to mention in the debt funds. Really, that activity mostly occurs in June. The operations fund, very similar. Salaries and benefits right in that 40 to 42% range where we would expect them at this time of the year. And so again, if the board has any questions, I'm happy to answer them. But everything looks as expected. I'll have more to say, obviously, next month when we present the June 30 financial.
Alex, I like to go to the last page.
Sure.
So
And
excited.
it's positive.
Yeah.
Very good.
Absolutely.
You might want to mention or talk about it.
Sure. So the last page that Mr. Pemberton's speaking about is the combined education and operations funds report that we created this year. Tracy helped me with. Again, the purpose of that is to show comparatively to previous years, now that we've moved to having these new funds, and certain expenditures that were part of the general fund are now part of the operations fund. So how do we kind of bring that together both now and then also work to put those funds together when we look back? So our net balance in between the two funds is just under $5 million. If you look at what would have been the general fund, transportation, capital projects, and bus replacement, last year at this time we were at $4.2 million. So again, we're continuing to build upon that balance.
Very good.
So again, it's very positive. I would point out that if you look at the unexpended balance percentage, it looks low, but that's because I budgeted lower as compared to previous years. I didn't put as much padding in there. We'll see if I regret that as we get closer to the end of the year. But that's what that's reflecting, is a lower appropriation. So again, it's all positive news as of May 31 of 2019.
Thank you. Very good.
Anything else for Mr. Newman? All right, then we'll go on to 8.02, update on the School City of Mishawaka athletic season tickets giveaways. Mr. Hopper.
Thank you, President Curry and school board members. Just wanted to update you on our season passes and the things we're doing with season tickets. The prices haven't dramatically changed. The only thing that we did was reduce adult season passes by $5 and brought that down to $70. And for our family passes, instead of one price for a family pass for a family of 4 and a family of 5 and a family of 6, it's going to be a family of 4 for $170, a family of 5, $180, and a family of 6 for $190. Two pieces of information I wanted to give you about our season tickets this year is we're going to have our student athletes help sell those season tickets, and if they can sell 10 of the season tickets of our season passes, then we would waive their activity fee. And so we have a lot of activity fees that don't get paid that we encourage, and we talk to the coaches and we talk to the athletes. This would give them an incentive to not only get their family and friends out to watch them play, but also to help us increase some of our season passes. And another thing that we're going to do, and we talked to Mindy Watford of First Data, is to get a POS system to make it easier on those days when people want to pay by a credit card. And so if someone would like to pay with a credit card on the scheduled pickup days, they could do that. If they want to come into our office and pay for season tickets, they could do that. And eventually we could use it for concessions, souvenirs, and for some of the other things. So we think that would be something that would be beneficial. One other item on our season tickets is we want to identify our reserve seats. And in football specifically, our reserve seats haven't been updated in over 10 years. We have people who sit in reserve seats, but they may not have a season pass. They might just come and say, that's my reserve seat. And so we're going to be identifying that reserve seat. And the way we want to do that is to put an M sticker on a reserve seat, so people will know that that's a reserve seat. They will have it on the back of their pass, the season number. It would be the row and the number that they have. And operations is going to help us by just making the letters and numbers more visible, and also under the press box a section that says reserved, and so people can identify and know that those are reserved seats. So those are the major things that we're doing with that. And I passed out our program ads we've started selling, and you see the championships, you see the trophies during the season, but this is a time when we can really make a difference in the off season. So Bruce Quick and I have been out selling programs. This is going to be the size, the material of our programs, and it's also our brochure that we're taking around and talking to people about. So it has our ad prices on there, and we have a separate flyer for digital ads that we use as well. And so we're talking to them, and we have a digital presentation that we give people to talk about those things. So those are some of the things that I wanted to talk to you about, and just give you some information and give you an update and let you know that we're working hard in the summer. And also, it was announced earlier that Julia Facetta is coming on board. Dr. Spiker did a great job talking about who she is, but in her interview, she knocked it out of the park, talking about her passion for Mishawaka, talking about coming here wanting to make a difference, and her championship level, not only in Lego robotics, and we hope they don't steal her away from us in that area, but she's won over 600 volleyball games, and so the coaches who were in the room, Keith Kinder said, I can't wait to pick her brain and find out how she wins, what she does, how she motivates. She also won a national award, and that was for positive coaching. And I think we can all agree that from the kindergarten level all the way to the senior level, we can use more positive coaching influences who talk to those coaches not just about wins and losses, but winning on and off the field and on and off the court and on and off the pool. Okay, so thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. Item 8.03, Communications Department update. Ms. Sauer?
Thank you, President Curry, Dr. Spiker, and members of the school board. It's hard to talk about a whole year of communications, but I'm going to try to do it in a visual way for you and keep it moving. The update that I want to talk about is that communications people are storytellers, and the best stories are those that elicit emotion. We try to put a face on stories, on issues, on programs. If you take a look at this picture, we could give it a caption like the Mishawaka Education Foundation gave grant money to buy technology for second graders at Twin Branch School. That would be an accurate communication. But what we would really rather say is this is Fidel, and he made a ring with a 3D printer that he's going to give his mother on Mother's Day. So it's just a little bit different of how we tell stories. And I'm going to do the clicker, so here we are. You all know this is the communication staff. I want to give a big shout out to Lynn and to Heidi. They are wonderful partners, and they do a fabulous job. They are leaders in their area, and I really appreciate their teamwork. Also joining us now, Parker Norris and Evan Bordner. This has just really advanced our ability to tell more higher quality stories, but also to invest in our students, invest in our community. Parker and Evan have begun as their mission now, their first jobs. They're going to IUSB this fall, and they will be our communications interns and help tell stories, and you'll see some of those in just a minute. The one thing that we want to talk about, what's so important with communications these days, is the competition for staff and students and funding in today's K through 12 student environment has changed dramatically with the advent of school choice and vouchers. No longer can public schools count on traditional sources of revenue. Strategic communication and marketing in all forms are essential for success in recruiting staff and students, winning grants, and launching programs. The school city of Mishawaka has been navigating this new path by telling our story the Mishawaka way, nurturing valuable community partners and other third-party, non-traditional funding sources. Members of the board, you have received several handouts, including a number of accomplishments from the 2018-2019 school year, but rather than reading those to you, I'd like to show you some of the work that illustrates our efforts to tell the stories that live and breathe in all Mishawaka schools. These are stories that represent the Mishawaka way in good times and in bad. Stories that highlight students and staff who are leaders in the culture of excellence. In March, one of the things that we undertook this year was that it was the second annual Public Schools Week, and it was recognized across the country. We were not involved in the first year, but the second year we were all in. It was a great opportunity to promote and educate our community about public education. It's where all students are welcome, regardless of ability, race, wealth, language, country of origin, or needs. You may remember the letter writing campaign that our 5th and 6th grade students at Hums and LaSalle invited our state and federal representatives to support public education with a visit to Mishawaka schools. Here's Robert Elliott. Oh, no. Dang. What'd I do wrong?
Here.
Oh, you got to do that.
Dear Representative Walorski, why should you choose LaSalle? As you know, LaSalle Elementary is a public school located in Mishawaka, Indiana. I've been here for around 7 years, so I feel that I can give some good clarity on why you should choose LaSalle from my personal experience. A big thing that sets the students' mood when coming to the school is the teachers. The teachers are what inspire the students to learn and be creative. LaSalle has some phenomenal teachers. All of the teachers I have had, I absolutely love because of their passion for teaching. The teachers here love helping kids and encourage them to ask questions. Another huge reason why I love having an opportunity to be at LaSalle is that it teaches you things that I wouldn't normally learn about. I've learned things about Black history and multiple religions that I never knew. I enjoy this very much because it gives me a larger variety of information that I take pleasure in understanding. Another reason why I enjoy LaSalle so much is because of the students. I've made a ton of friends and companions throughout my stay at LaSalle. They help me when I'm injured, sad, angry, or especially just having fun. As I end my last year at LaSalle, I've learned many new and eventful things. Great teachers, great people, and new ideas have all helped me. As I finish writing this, I hope I have given you more insight on LaSalle and why you should consider coming to visit us here and support public education. LaSalle has helped me so much throughout life, and if you make the decision of coming here, you might learn a plethora of things just like I did. Respectfully, Robert Elliott.
As you might remember, Representative Walorski did make a visit to our schools, and every TV station and the newspaper were here to cover it, as well as we covered it ourselves. So it was a great win, and it was a lot of fun. And we will look forward to the 3rd annual Public Schools Week and hope to do a lot more with it. Now, do I click or do you click the next video? Okay. Really?
Dear Representative Walorski, why should you choose LaSalle? As you know, LaSalle Elementary is a Representative Walorski. Why should you choose LaSalle?
I mean, it was really good. You could listen to it again, but because I have to introduce it. Okay, I'm going to say the next story was shot by Parker Norris yesterday in Indianapolis, where Mishawaka High School was recognized for its elite endorsement as an early college high school.
Mishawaka is one of just 10 high schools to be endorsed in 2019 as an early college high school by Indiana's Center of Excellence in Leadership of Learning, or CEL. Dean of Students Chad Bruce said it was an honor to represent everyone at MHS.
It was great. It really is a testament to the hard work of the kids as well as our teachers.
Being named an early college high school puts Mishawaka in an elite group, as there are only 30 such schools in the entire state. Early college students earn college credit in high school, saving families thousands of dollars in college tuition and putting them in the workforce at an earlier age. Educating enough career-ready students for Hoosier jobs is critical for business and is a top priority for Indiana's Commission on Higher Education. Director Teresa Lubers says early college is the way to meet that goal.
Well, we do have a 60% goal that 60% of Hoosiers would have a quality credential beyond high school. That includes certificates all the way to graduate degrees. That 60% goal is aligned to the needs of the workforce. So it's not just some number we picked out of the sky. It's that that's what we're going to need to fill the jobs. And we also know that for those who don't have education beyond high school, the likelihood that they will live in poverty is very great.
At the celebration in Indianapolis, Mishawaka was praised for its Hallmark Summer Bridge program for incoming freshmen and for the relationships built among students and teachers who share the same advisory class for their entire high school career.
The advisories that the kids are placed in, and those advisory teachers really kind of monitor those kids to make sure that they're, getting their college credits and doing what they need to for the program. So it was great.
Some Indiana early college programs target certain groups of students, while Mishawaka was recognized for allowing all students to apply. Either way, Commissioner Lubers says the advantages to early college high school go beyond graduation.
Students who are first generation in their families see themselves as college material. And when you get college credit, it changes the way you see yourself and increases the likelihood to do the second thing that I think is important, which is not only accomplish a goal in high school, but that it starts you on a pathway to college completion at higher levels as well.
Mishawaka early college students save more than $500,000 in tuition, while also building a better school community along the way.
Okay, and so yesterday, we got a banner that we'd like to present to Mr. Caldroni. Woo-hoo! It was really a cool celebration. I was happy I got to go with Chad. Actually, Jessica and John Ross are both on vacation. Jerome was on vacation, so we kind of defaulted, but it was great. There were only 10 schools recognized. They gave a big talk about all of us, and there really are only 30 in the state, so it's a very elite group that we're in. The next story is something a little different. The St. Joe County Prosecutor's Office and WSBT produced an active shooter training video. Our safety team added an intro from our safety specialist, Ken Kellenbach, to help make it our own. We were able to show this to the principals in a principal meeting. It's a 10-minute video. I'm not going to show the whole thing to you, but I wanted to show you how we gave it our own kind of brand, if you might say it that way. And once we showed it to the principals took it back to their buildings and showed it to all their staff. So all of the staff in all of the schools have seen this video. Oh, wrong one. How do I do that? This one?
No, that's how you
Oh,
use
that's the
PowerPoint.
last one. We really have to, okay, here we go.
Hello, I'm Ken Kalenbach, in charge of school safety at School City of Mishawaka. You are about to see a training video describing various active shooter scenarios called Run, Hide, Fight. Run, Hide, Fight are options for you to choose based on your situation. Each school shooting has many variables such as where and when it happens. Think of class time, lunchtime, passing periods, or an evening event. Your location and situation can also vary. You could be teaching in your classroom, out at recess, in a conference room, or in a hallway. Depending on your location and situation and what is happening at that moment, be prepared to choose your options. And remember, they are not meant to be in any particular order. Run if you are in a hallway or common area. History shows these are danger zones. History also shows hiding in a locked classroom is most often the safest place for students and staff. We encourage you to regularly watch this training video and discuss possible scenarios with your principal and colleagues. Take time to make your plan based on your usual location and situation. And please keep safety top of mind at all times.
Schools are supposed to be a safe place for students and teachers.
Unfortunately, we report nearly every week about another school shooting.
So it goes on. It's a 10-minute video, but it was very good, and I think it was helpful to the staff in the area.
You know, I'd like to, I've talked about this so many times. I remember 4 years ago, we talked about safety, and I asked about our plan, and it was dusty and some filing cabinet, and what a change. I mean, it's unbelievable. Again, I want to Dr. Spiker, his staff, Ken, everybody. What a great job. I mean, this is important to the kids, to the staff, to the employees, and to the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go on here. Of course, we can't talk about communications last year without talking about some bad news. This year was especially difficult for our school district when the tragic news shocked us all. One of our students was accused of murdering another. I'd like to thank Dr. Spiker for asking Dean Huppert and I to coordinate the communication surrounding this killing that received international attention. Also, thanks to Jerome Caldroni and his staff for working hard day in, day out for probably about 2 months. We met and talked about everything during this difficult time. Of course, the media needed information, and we provided it while still protecting our school families and our Mishawaka brand. There was a candlelight vigil held one night, and we didn't really want to allow the media to come and shoot it and talk to families and get their spin on it. But we knew they had to cover it. So we covered it, and Dean Huppert put a piece together on it, and that's what we're going to show you now.
Be with us tonight as we try to make sense of this great tragedy that seems so senseless and so unnecessary.
This candlelight vigil is being held because Baker Park was a place of togetherness, peace, and happiness for Bree. She loved softball. She loved basketball, cheerleading, but she mostly loved those sports because of what they were all about. It meant time to be with her friends, a chance to challenge yourself, an opportunity to laugh, cry, a chance to work with her teammates to achieve a common goal.
We didn't know her, but I want you to know that our hearts are with you and our prayers are with you. There's so many people here that have never been to one of these, but this touched us.
I'm here to talk about Brianna. She was the flower girl of my wedding. She was amazing. She's my chuckle butt. She was very easy to talk to. She was always smiled, always was very polite, always just big eyes. And it's a horrible thing that happened. There's no words that I can say that make it easy or better.
This is the type of thing that could rip a community, a school, a family apart. And all it's done is brought us closer together.
I just wanted to say that she was a sweetheart. All y'all know that. Had a beautiful smile, a great spirit, and will never be forgotten, and she'll always be in our hearts forever.
I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be.
Again, we provided that to the media, and it was used by all of them. They appreciated it. They got what they needed, but they weren't able to come on and do their own story. Last of all, our second annual Whole Child Conference was held at Mishawaka High School, and the Mishawaka Network produced 2 or 3 pieces, I think, already about the event. And we also did it with the intention of putting together a promotional piece so that we'll have that for the third annual one. We'll be able to put a video together to get presentations and to get people to register for the conference in advance. So this is one of the pieces put together for our keynote speaker. Back. Okay. Beautiful.
The Whole Child Workshop at Mishawaka High School was established in 2018 as the first such professional development conference to be held in Indiana. This year, the annual event expanded to 2 days and brought in experts from across the country, including Dr. Fariel Pearson, the force behind the Secret Kindness Agents. This simple yet powerful program starts like a spy game and includes 4 important rules.
There are 4 non-negotiables. So the first non-negotiable is that everybody has to have an agent name, including the adults. The second non-negotiable is that everyone decides the acts of kindness together. So the adult doesn't get to tell the children what to do. They get to decide for themselves. The third is that it becomes a habit. And so it has to happen constantly and consistently. It can't just be like for Random Act of Kindness Day. It has to be something that becomes a habit.
The beauty of sharing programs like this is that many educators left the workshop with ideas they could start in their classrooms immediately.
When you think about programs that really change students and automaticity, this is one of those things that, is free. One, from an administrative standpoint, it's free, and then it's also easily replicable.
The fourth non-negotiable helps ingrain kindness into the school climate and culture.
And then the fourth thing is that there has to be reflection involved. So whether it's writing a journal or talking about it or creating art about it or having a dialogue as a whole class or in small groups, that reflection piece is really important because it helps us internalize kind of how that made us feel.
The Secret Kindness Agents program has been a part of Mishawaka's Beeger Elementary School for 2 years now, and the program is expanding to at least 2 more Mishawaka schools this fall.
The genius of it is not that I didn't create it, it was that it was created by kids. And I think that the future is in our children's hands, and all we have to do is listen to them and do what they tell us to do, and we'll go far.
Okay, so none of this really could have been possible without the creation of the new class that we started in the fall. Matt Rendell and then Dean Hubbard and I got our workplace specialist license. It kind of came on very quickly, and it's come to be something that I really love to do. I started just spending an hour or 2 in class every week to help teach the class, but some weeks it's a lot more than that, and that's just great. So, and as Matt has told you before, as we've told you that we've expanded, we'll have 3 classes next year. We've gone from 6 students to about 30. So we're really excited about that, and a lot of that is because of Matt Rendell. So I also want to show you just a few stats, and then we'll be done. Talking about the future, 2 of the things that I think will really change what we do or enhance what we do as far as communications go in the future is our intentional partnership now with not only the Mishawaka Education Foundation, but also with the Mishawaka High School Alumni Association. Heidi is on it, and we have started all sorts of things that you can read in your brochure that I've given you. But I just wanted to say that I think the momentum that we're going to get behind this and working together is going to make a big difference for all of us. And then also, as I said, the Mishawaka Network, which has just taken off. It was created since last June. We've had over 77,000 views off the Mishawaka network, 942,000 minutes watched, 850 new subscribers, 120 live streams, which includes what we're doing right now, the school board meeting. We did Wayne Barker's introduction, the news conference, but a lot of sports events, as you know, as well, and 110 videos uploaded. None of this would have happened last year, so this is all new stuff. And then social media, through over 3,000 tweets and 750 followers, and Facebook over 750 followers as well. So thank you very much, and as I said, you can read a lot more in your program.
Thank you very much. It's wonderful to see that we're being proactive in getting our own story out. Item 8.04, open enrollment marketing update. Mrs. Smith.
Good evening. I'll make this kind of fast since it's getting late. Just to quickly go over a little bit of background on the openings that we have. On February 7th, Mrs. Shiko did a presentation with all of the numbers and where we're at and the dates and everything. So what was presented was 404 openings in grades K through 11 is what we're offering this year. We currently have 135 new enrollments. And last year, actually on this exact date, we had a board meeting and we had 135 at that time. So we're right in line with where we were a year ago. And so we'll be taking applications through September 30th, as long as we have openings available. And out of the 135 new enrollees, 79 of those are for incoming kindergarten. And out of those 79, 12 have actually requested Bethel kindergarten. So I think that's really great. The news is starting to spread about that particular class. I just want to show you a quick breakdown so you can kind of see. Obviously, kindergarten is by far where people are bringing their kids. Everything else is pretty much in line. Second and sixth grade have a few more. So, but it does say a lot, though, that people do want to start their children's education with us. That's a great place that we're at. So, we have also started to try and collect some data and feedback along the way to help kind of make sure we're going down the right path as far as marketing and that we're, why people are coming here. So a few of the reasons that we've been able to collect so far, the one that came up the most was recommendations from family, friends, and coworkers. So that word of mouth is definitely a big piece. Another big one this year was to keep siblings together. So they already have, maybe a first, second, third grader, and so they want to bring their other kids in. We have a lot of alumni. Parents are alumni, so they just want to bring their kids here. We have a few that are employees, so they want to bring their children. And another one that happens a lot, daycare parents, they work close, they live close, the daycare is close. That tends to happen a lot too. A couple of different things. Obviously, we've heard great things about Bethel Kindergarten, so that's where some of the, out of those 12, that's why they're coming here. We did have a couple that attended the pre-K program that wanted to stay. And we've had a lot of people just say that, we have great schools, the better educational opportunities. Some things that they feel we have smaller class sizes, they feel it's a safe environment, or they're just ready to try a new district. So those were just a few of the reasons why people have been coming here. One of the other things we've been looking at is how they heard about the open enrollment or how they heard about us. The one that comes up the most is other. It's not really any help. So unfortunately, it could be anything. The other one that comes up a lot is family and friends. Again, that's how most people hear about things. A lot of people said website, billboards. I was actually kind of surprised on that one, and social media. So, and honestly, looking at all those, it could be all the same thing. I heard from my friends on social media, but they just put friends. So we really don't have a true gauge as to how exactly people are hearing. So. The marketing plan this year, we're working with Big Idea Company again. This will be the third year that we've worked with them. And we are, sorry, it's not moving. These are the areas that we're looking at for the marketing plan. So we're looking at digital ads, social media, Pandora, radio, and digital outdoor. And for social media, we're doing Facebook and Instagram. And we added Instagram last year, and we had, I think that had a little bit of help in results. So right now, social media, Pandora, and radio are running. Those are going June through August. So you may start to see some different ads and things pop up. And then the digital outdoor and digital ads will be July through August, which is that's where we have a big bump in the enrollments. So a difference that we're adding this year, we're not doing yard signs. I don't know that that's a good use of money. It's kind of expensive. And also we're not doing a mailing. That's a big expense for one mailing. So we're taking that money and adding a little more of the digital outdoor, and we're adding the digital ads.
Can I make a comment?
Yep.
And I think, Holly, you remember the Reverewood Neighborhood Facebook page. There's a lot of moms that are talking on there about their kids, and the positive, the positive thing that I'm seeing is that there are SCM, School City teachers that are becoming part of the dialogue. They're getting in there and talking up Mishawaka. And that's important.
Right.
And I haven't seen it before, and it's
Yeah.
starting to happen.
Yeah,
which is very
that word of mouth and that positive, and to have that buy-in from staff is that's a huge plus, definitely. And I just want to say on the digital ads, what we're doing with that this year is Sinclair, Sinclair Broadcasting. They have, there's a lot of different ad networks out there that they can get on. So we're kind of giving them, this is the demographic, this is the geographic target, this is the money. So they're going to put that out there. So it's kind of a feel like social media, but it's designed for mobile and website. So if you went to weather.com and you see those ads and stuff pop up, that's where those things will pop up. So it's just another way of reaching people where they're at. So,
Well, if you just say, School City enough around your phone, it'll start popping up on your Facebook, so.
It does. It's really kind of creepy, but from a marketing standpoint, it's really helpful. So,
Yeah, so just keep saying it.
Yeah. Actually, tell your friends and family to say it too, so that it comes up. So, so the theme we're going again with this year's Tomorrow's Leaders Are Found Here. The last couple of years, that's what we've gone with, and we took a fresh look and some colors that pop this year. I know maroon is our color, but it's really not an exciting color to get people, when you're thinking of bringing your little kids to school. So we took a little bit different approach this year on it. And but also I did want to thank Janine Mabry because she helped. She was a huge help on this. We needed 4 kindergarten students, 2 boys, 2 girls. So she worked with the parents, made sure we had everything set up. We bussed them over to Big Idea Company where they were in the studio and got to do, it was fun for the kids too. And as you see these pictures, I think over the next few years, these will be future leaders of ours. They were really impressive little kids. So this is kind of what the ads will look like. So this is an example of Pandora where we do have not just the ads, but we also have a commercial that airs along with it. And then we have a combination of billboards. And so we're looking at some different careers. So you have a lawyer, we have a trade worker, a doctor, and a police officer. So those are the 4 that'll be popping up throughout the And so these are kind of what the social media ads will look like this year. So this one is the doctor. It's just a cute little animated piece, just a little bit different than usual. This one's your police officer. And the kids, you can't turn down kids like that too. They're just really, they're really great kids. And then this one is the lawyer. Sorry, it's not moving. There you go. And then the trade worker. So those are just a kind of a quick overview. So you'll start to see those things popping up throughout the area. So I think that's it on that. If anyone has any questions or anything, just kind of a quick update.
Thank you very much.
So, thank you.
And you might as well just stay up
I
there
will,
because the
I
next
will.
item is yours. Item 8.05, the leadership wall design.
For the leadership wall, this, if you, give it just a
Not
second
yet.
for it to pop up.
Amanda?
There we go. Okay. We're
just gonna stand there. We're just gonna look pretty. It's fine.
Sorry. There we go. After we, obviously you can tell we got new carpet, we repainted in here, so you normally take everything down, and so we took the time to look at, do we want to just put everything back where it was, the same things, or is this an opportunity to update and kind of have a fresh look that fits where we're at. So what we want to do is maybe kind of take more of a focus on leadership, as that's a big direction as to where we're going, and teamwork. So we're kind of looking at a phase approach to bring different signage and stuff. So the first piece will be a leadership wall, and then we'll look at interior signage, like the doors and the directional signs and those things here at the Ad Center. These lovely divider walls back here, and then possibly like a rotating center in that back open area for student work and accomplishments. So just quickly on interior signage, what we're looking at is possibly doing something, it'll be compliant, which we don't necessarily have right now, so everything will be placed where it should, it'll have Braille on it. But we're looking at a system where we actually print the inserts so we can customize it to whatever we need. So you're not stuck with what's been printed, and they're all movable as well. So if we ever relocate or anything, we can take all those signs with us. So that's just a system we're kind of looking at. The divider walls need redone. They kind of stand out. So so that will be one of the phases as well, is how to kind of bring that in to match everything that we have. And as we talk about leadership and things, there's a lot of different, I actually have that in my notes. Yeah. If you notice the crooked signs, well, it'll be more of a stable, so you don't have that. Unfortunately, it happens a lot. But yeah, so we'll look at maybe having, whether it's building leaders, teacher leaders, student leaders, teachers of the year, different types of ways that we can have a more current way of showing some information. So, and then, sorry, it's going slow. And then as far as like a rotating center for some student work and achievements, we had the artwork out here from the high school, and every year after it comes down, everyone feels, oh, it's so bland, we need something. So there's a possibility but we have pre-K all the way through young adults, that everyone has great accomplishments, they have a lot they do. So we can look at doing different things, artwork, competition awards, you got robotics that are building things, we can have a case for it, different stories, so wherever our imagination takes us. So that's something that we'll work on too. And so for the leadership wall, though, we need to look at, after we took down we had the board pictures, which were just individual pictures hanging up on the wall, and behind the screen here, we just had the individual superintendent pictures. And they just had like a name and a date, nothing really exciting. And so we thought, well, rather than just put those back as they are, why not update it? So one of the things we're looking at is right here, we have a really nice open space to put something. It's a nice focal point when you first walk in. So that's the area we're looking at for the leadership wall. And so as we kind of think about the leaders and where we're going, we create more leaders and stuff here. So that's kind of the theme that we want to go with. And so as far as the board members, there you go. We're looking at, rather than doing individual pictures, do one group picture showing, the board working together as a team.
Photoshop all that, so we don't have to.
Well, I will say, I could actually, but I'm not going to. We could, but what's really nice with this design, and most everything's going to be like the brushed aluminum, the clear acrylic, it'll be a really nice upscale look that we have. But by doing it this way, it's actually a sign where we can take the picture, print it in the print shop on the poster, and so we can change it as needed, so we don't have to take it back in to get redone or anything. So that'll be a nice thing to be able to do that. Yeah, and so it'll be a really easy way to change it up. So but the big challenge though was with the superintendents, and we always add to it. It doesn't just stop. So how do we have a look that it looks finished, but it's not actually finished? So that was a really big challenge to come up with what to do. And so we're working with Burkhart Science Systems. And so we came up with, there's a cable system that we can use to do individual pictures. And it gives you flexibility to add and move and change It's fewer impressions on the wall. And so it gives us that need that we have of being able to add to it as we go. And it's kind of like a donor wall, if you've ever seen that. So this is a look that we're kind of looking at, with overall. And so to start, we needed 15 pictures. This actually has 18. So we even have 3 blank ones to start with, whether we can put the Mishawaka way, a quote, couple things to fill it in. But we do have a lot of room for mobility and stuff. And this is kind of a feel for what it'll look like. It'll be like the aluminum plates is what everything will be on, with the clear acrylic. On there, we'll add, everything's going to be black and white as well. No color pictures or anything. So it all looks like a nice system. So we'll have the superintendent pictures, obviously their name, the years of service, but then we're also going to add like a little bit of a story or what they contributed to School City of Mishawaka. And I've already recruited Dr. Spiker to help. He has a lot of knowledge of these people, so it'll save a lot of research. So he's going to help kind of pull together some of that information. So that's kind of the system and stuff we're looking at. And I do want to say too, it is actually movable. So if we ever remodel, relocate something, we can actually take it and move it as well. So you're not stuck with a permanent thing. So. Yep, but yeah, I don't know if you have any questions or if Mr. Curry has anything.
No, are you finished with the presentation?
Yep.
Well, I think this is great. The signage, and I like the recognition and the fact that it's expandable. I do think that there, in terms of the leadership wall and the recognitions, that there is something we could do to improve upon that. Dean, we wouldn't be where we are today without your leadership. And so what we would like to do is to honor you in a special way on that wall. So I will entertain at this point a motion to amend the agenda to add a item 8.05A to rededicate this space as the Spiker Leadership Center.
Move for a motion. Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Not yet.
All right, in that case, all in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Let's reveal what it's going to look like.
That doesn't say Sparky.
No. Yeah, they spelled it wrong. I'll have them correct that before they install it. So.
Jeff knows how to spell it.
I think it's fitting. It's a fitting name for this area, Spiker Leadership Center. This doesn't just honor Dr. Spiker, but it reminds us as a group of our vision and purpose here in this room.
I would like, do you want to say something?
No, go ahead, Holly.
I would like to say that for the last almost 5 years now that I've sat in this position, I have never felt more successful, confident, and have the courage to have the communication with the community as well as all of the people that run this corporation. And I don't think that I would have felt that had things stayed status quo in School City of Mishawaka. And I think that Dean has brought tremendous leadership, and we would not be here and we have not always agreed. And but the thing that he has taught me as a person that sits in this position and as a community person is that we don't have to agree, but we do have to come to a compromise to see each other's point of view and listen to each other. And so with that leadership, I have grown as a person. And I hope that I've instilled something in him, maybe patience, which I'm sure he's got plenty of. So I would say that this would not be this without the beginning part, and that's the leader, and who gives us all the tools to do the jobs that he puts us in charge to do. So I would like to say thank you, and that is the least that we could do. But it's going to be beautiful, and I'm super excited for it to be finished.
I would like to simply say that it serves as our cornerstone for our culture of excellence. And thank you.
Dean, I think this is a great momentum for you because the thing I love about you the most is that not only are you a great leader, but you, and we've heard this from several people tonight, you're creating great leaders here. I have extreme confidence in Alex. I've heard great things about Alex from people within my firm. Corey is doing amazing things with the information system. Sarah's doing an amazing job with curriculum. And those are just 3 people. And the list could go on and on and on. So this is our way of saying thank you for all of the leadership you've brought here and all the leadership you're leaving us with. We are leaps and bounds ahead of where we were 4 years ago, and none of this would have been possible without your leadership and your A-team that came in, like this guy right here, and really turned the school corporation around.
Well, it's been a privilege and a pleasure to serve with you, Dean. I don't know that I could add anything to what everybody else has said. It's we've been blessed to have you. But the procedural matter, what we just voted on was the amending the agenda to have a motion to rename it the Spiker Leadership Center. So that has not yet happened. So.
I would like to move that we end the discussion and take a unanimous vote.
Eggs, chicken.
All right, so it's been moved to actually now rename this space as the Spiker Leadership Center. Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on that motion? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. All right, now it's official. And I thank Dean. We can give you a standing ovation.
I am honored and humbled by this recognition. As a leader, you only are as effective and as good as the team that you have around you. And I have been blessed, first of all, to have 5 board members and several others, Lori Stilson and Denny Wood. I don't think I've forgotten anybody. I think those are the 2 that, in addition to the 5 of you, that have been on the board during my tenure. I've been blessed to have a very supportive board, and I've been blessed to have a wonderful group of people to work with. Tonight, I want to recognize Brian Rigler for his contributions this year. Brian has brought us a great perspective in terms of his experience in education, but also his service to the military. So I'd like to recognize Brian for his service this year. I also want to recognize Bill Welling. Bill has been a great teammate. Bill has been with us through the whole development, the change of the culture, the transition that we have been through the last 4 years. And Bill is going to be recognized along with Mike Pettibone and Bruce Staley, Dr. Staley, on October the 17th. And you won't want to miss being at the MEF event, not to recognize this cast of characters, but to be there for the auction that is going to take place. Holly always has a few surprises up her sleeve, and I think this year could be the most impactful of any year. So anyway, stay tuned. And it's going to be a great event. MEF events are always great events, but I think this year, not because of the cast of characters, but because of the auction and other things, it's going to be a wonderful event. So, Bill, thank you for everything, and I know that Wayne is, Mr. Barker is planning to bring a recommendation to the board on July 10th to have Mr. Welling serve as an independent consultant, much like we've had Dr. Staley and others serve, to work on the code of conduct and staff and student support systems work group, as well as community schools and work that needs to be done at John Young Middle School. So I know he's bringing that to you next board meeting, July 10th. Now I'd like to make my comments. Item 901, all I have to do is read the agenda. That's what I had to say. So this is free, and I'm going to make my comments about each board member because without these 5 board members plus the 2 others, Larry Stilson and Denny Wood, I wouldn't be sitting here. I'm going to start by talking about Amanda, who is the newest board member. But I am exceedingly thankful, impressed that in the short period of time that you've been on the board, that you are really making an impact. And I think that your leadership and your impact can really be impactful because of the age group that you represent. And people that have children in schools, and your ability to be out in the community and to help tell the story in the school city of Mishawaka. So you've been an excellent addition, and I would commend the city council for making a great appointment. So thank you.
Thank you.
Then I'm going to go to the vice president of the board, who was the president of the board for a couple of years, Mr. Emmons. Quite frankly, if I hadn't gotten a haircut at the wrong time, I wouldn't be sitting here. Mr. Emmons, for several years, talked to me about the school city of Mishawaka. Dr. Barker came to me and wanted to know, after the failed 2013 referendum, if Spiker Fields, the consulting company, if we could work with them to look at a different approach to how we might approach getting taxpayers interested in supporting education in Mishawaka moving forward. So I worked with, and Dr. Staley came on board, and Dr. Staley and I worked with a group of 39 staff and citizens in 2014. In 2015, after the 39 citizens had made their report, Spiker Fields had made their report, and our conclusion was really very simple. School city of Mishawaka doesn't have a financial problem. They have a community engagement problem. They have a problem getting the support of the community to achieve the things that they want to achieve. And so, surprisingly to me, Mr. Emmons walked me into the superintendent's office and said that we need to continue with the work that the Committee of 39 had done moving forward, that we needed to have a group of citizens, which then was created the Community Collaborating Committee, and this is where Mr. Curry comes in. Mr. Curry and Mrs. Marshall Wells served as co-chairs of the Community Collaborating Committee, and the Community Collaborating Committee did their work, working with Dr. Staley and myself, until there was an event in June of 2015 that brought me with the board where they wanted to have a discussion about me being interim superintendent, which I told them twice that I wasn't qualified, that I had been out of it too long, and that I needed to continue to do consulting and so on. Well, after some discussion, we came together in terms of a plan, a vision for the school city of Mishawaka. And I'll tell you, this community owes a lot to Mr. Emmons, and they owe a lot to Mr. Curry for what they have done in terms of getting us to the point of where we were prepared to talk to the community after over 100 people were involved in designing what would end up to be an operating levy and a capital levy. There were over 100 citizens that were involved as a result of the work that the Community Collaborating Committee and these gentlemen and Marshall Wells led us in during that period of time. So I want to say thank you to both of you. Also, we would not have passed the referendum at the high level that we did without Holly Parks being involved. Holly Parks, when you ask her to do a job, she will do 4 times more than you ask her to do. She is a hard worker, she is a leader, she has a great network, and Holly, I want to thank you for everything that you have done to make the school city of Mishawaka a better school system, and for your influence in the community to get us from where we were in 2014 to where we are today. I'm grateful to you. And lastly, to Mr. Pemberton, I've asked Bill to go on a lot of journeys that I didn't have a clue where we were going. We got involved with insurance as one of them. And so I said, you know, I think we can do something better than going out into the open market and buying commercial health insurance. And so we put together a health and wellness work group. We had 7 members. We had teacher representation. We had the union represented. Mr. Pemberton was the board representative. Dr. Staley was on it. And we ultimately ended up hiring a broker or an insurance consultant. And we ultimately ended up with an RFP going out to both St. Joe Health System and the Beacon Health System. And ultimately, St. Joe Health System was selected as the organization that we wanted to partner with for our health insurance and also for our wellness program and also for our community benefit. That to date has benefited the school system millions of dollars. I'm not going to say how many millions because there's still some debate as to how many millions of dollars it has benefited us. But we were facing a double-digit price increase by Anthem Blue Cross if we had stayed in the commercial insurance market. We now have our own affordable care group organization that has our employees plus their dependents, about 1,100 lives, that we are being insured. We have a guaranteed price point as part of our affordable care group, and we also now are managing our claims and our disease groups and all of those kinds of things more effectively. I'm grateful to Mr. Pemberton for the business acumen and his experience that he brings to the school system, and only because of the great work that Dr. Staley, Mr. Newman, and Mr. Pemberton are doing, do I truly believe that we have the financial stability and success that I think we're going to need during the circuit breaker years of 2020 to 2024. Those are going to be challenging years. They're not going to be easy, but I think we're in a much better position than we could have been had we not been aggressive in terms of what we're doing. So, Mr. Pemberton, thank you very much for your leadership and your help in getting those things done. And to all of you out there, thank you for sitting and listening to this for the last half an hour.
All right. Was that item 9.01?
I guess.
Then we'll move on to the end of the agenda. And I'd like to, on behalf of the board, echo what Dr. Spiker said about best wishes, and thank you for all of the valuable work and contributions you've made, Bill and Brian. We're going to miss you. All right, 11.01, public announcements. The public is advised that on June 27, 2019, beginning at 6 p.m. in the Mishawaka High School Library, a neighborhood meeting will be held regarding the Mishawaka High School 10-year plan and any proposed alterations to the MHS campus and the immediate surrounding area. So that's tomorrow night, 6 o'clock at the high school library. All School City of Mishawaka offices will be closed on Thursday, July 4, 2019 for the Independence Day holiday. The 5th Annual Leaders Workshop will be held on August 8th and 9th, 2019. And the next regular meeting of the Board of School Trustees will be held on July 10, 2019, beginning at 7 o'clock p.m. at the Administrative Center, 1402 South Main Street, Mishawaka, Indiana. Is there any other business to come before the board? In that case, we are adjourned. Thank you all very much.